Chapter 11, 12, Spring Dawn, Jade Orioles. The cries of the birds were unceasing and pleasing to the ears. Inside the sovereign immortal aperture, many northern plains was originally wilderness covered in frost, but now green plants could be seen sprouting rapidly. The power of the earthly calamity was huge. In just a dozen breaths of time, a gigantic area surrounding Fangyuan was already covered in greenery. It was a grassland. Grass, trees, and flowers grew rapidly. It was as if this was an entirely new place. Fang Yuan stood on the peak of Donghun Mountain. He had a heavy expression. He focused his mind. This was his third earthly calamity. He brought Donghun Mountain with him again. But the situation now was very strange. The earthly calamity involved Spring Dawn Jade Orioles. It was helping Fang Yuan to develop his immortal aperture. Half a month ago, when Treasure Yellow Heaven opened, Fang Yuan did not choose to go Hay Tribe and take a risk. Instead, he went back and developed the sovereign immortal aperture. He had developed many areas, but because many northern plains was the place where Fang Yuan would be undergoing tribulation, he did not develop it. Right now, this earthly calamity was helping Fang Yuan to do it. This was out of his expectations. This was a good thing for Fang Yuan. But heaven's will can act in unexpected ways. It is not so kind. There are surely traps that it set. I need to inspect for them. Fang Yuan stood at the peak of Donghun Mountain, observing vigilantly. Many northern plains was huge. The grassland formed by the earthly calamity could not fill the whole of many northern plains. It only covered the part of the frosted land that was around Donghun Mountain. Looking at it, the greenery was growing thicker. Soon, sprouting trees grew taller, rising at an observable pace. At this rate, a huge forest was going to form. Fang Yuan felt surprised and joyful. The power of the earthly calamity was usually used for destruction against regular people. When used to develop the immortal aperture, it had truly shocking effects. If Fang Yuan wanted to transplant this huge forest into his immortal aperture, it would cost him a lot of time and effort. The Spring Dawn Jade Oriole had a short lifespan. As they died, they turned into Jade Green life force, fading in the air, but at the same time, more Spring Dawn Jade Orioles formed, moving forward in their place. At once, the sky was filled with the figures of these desolate birds. They were so numerous, like a flock of sparrows. It was a grand sight. Wait! Fang Yuan's expression suddenly changed. Go! He suddenly thought of something. He called out as he pointed. Instantly, sword light flew out, moving at lightning speed. Rank 7, Immortal Flying Sword. Spring Dawn. Jade Orioles were fast, but they could not match the speed of this sword light. But they could move agilely. They did not travel linearly. Fang Yuan used up some effort to kill one. A wave of true meaning rushed in soon, entering Fang Yuan's mind. In an instant, Fang Yuan felt like a Spring Dawn Jade Oriole, from the start of life to flight and until his death. In a short period of time, he experienced life and death. His mental state was transformed. Fang Yuan fully absorbed this true meaning, clarity returning to his eyes. Right now, he was a transformation path grandmaster. It was no longer as hard for him to absorb Reckless Savage's true meaning. If he was like an empty basin earlier trying to hold buckets of water, he was like a well now, taking in Reckless Savage's true meaning in huge quantity, with much greater ease than before. Fang Yuan frowned. At this moment, he realized the scheme of heaven's will. Fang Yuan's earthly calamity was very unique because of the immortal tribulation tempering aperture method and the nature of the northern icy plain. His earthly calamity had two portions. One was controlled by heaven's will, the other was influenced by Reckless Savage's true meaning. In the previous two earthly calamities, the portion controlled by heaven's will formed first, before the part of the earthly calamity formed by Reckless Savage's true meaning appeared. But in this third earthly calamity, Reckless Savage's true meaning appeared at the start. Fang Yuan did not expect this. This was the first time he was seeing this. Fang Yuan suffered a minor loss. Between Reckless Savage's true meaning and developing the blessed land, the former was much more important than the latter. Because Reckless Savage's true meaning could directly raise his transformation path attainment level, it could only be obtained during each tribulation. The costs and risks involved were high. As for developing the blessed land, he could do it at any time. Heaven's will knows about my vigilant nature. This is a good scheme to prevent my transformation path attainment level from rising rapidly. I wasted a lot of Reckless Savage's true meaning. Fang Yuan smiled, not feeling dejected. He flew out like lightning. In the air, his body shook as countless Strength Path phantoms appeared. Strength Path Killer. Move Myriad Self. Myriad Self charged forward, forming a huge tide of humans, rampaging towards the Spring Dawn Jade Oriole flock. Spring Dawn Jade Orioles were desolate birds. They could move freely among the Myriad Self army while chirping continuously. Myriad Self had little effect. Fang Yuan quickly used other methods. Sword Path Killer. Move triple-layered sword wave. Swish, swish, swish. Silver-white sword waves burst out like tides, containing an unstoppable sharpness, pushing forward. The speed of the spring dawn, Jade Oriole was faster than the sword waves. Fang Yuan sent out 3 sword waves. Even though some were killed, the result was not many. Cool, he frowned, understanding. In the previous 2 earthly calamities, Heaven's will already learned a lot about my foundation. Be it Myriad Self or triple-layered sword wave, it knows about their weaknesses. In this earthly calamity, the Spring Dawn Jade Orioles counter my 2 killer moves. Heaven's will is plotting against me by intentionally setting up these situations. In the previous earthly calamity, there were windflowers with sharpness like blades. But Fang Yuan had Donghun Mountain, using it as his base. He could defend himself to a great extent. But now, even though Fang Yuan brought Donghun Mountain, the Spring Dawn Jade Orioles were formed from Reckless Savage's true meaning. He could not sit around and defend himself. He needed to go on the offense or he would lose his greatest benefit. Thankfully, I retrieved Flying Sword Immortal Goo. Fang Yuan activated this rank 7 Immortal Goo. Sword Light rampaged according to his will. Spring Dawn. Jade Orioles died at Fang Yuan's hands, but more and more Spring Dawn Jade Orioles died on their own. If Fang Yuan did not kill them, he would not receive infusions of Reckless Savage's true meaning. Heaven's will purposely caused this. Fang Yuan's losses were not small. This was not just a loss of Reckless Savage's true meaning, but also his Green Grape Immortal Essence. Even though Flying Sword Immortal Goo was powerful, it was rank 7. Each activation needed a huge amount of Green Grape Immortal Essence, but each attack only hit 1 Spring Dawn Jade Oriole. Fang Yuan was wasting a lot of his resources for limited results. It seems that I need new methods in the next tribulation. Old moves are losing effectiveness. Fang Yuan thought of Wisdom Goo. If he had the light of wisdom, this problem was easy to solve. With his Grandmaster attainment level and wisdom path methods, he could very easily deduce new immortal killer moves. But even though Fang Yuan had his immortal zombie body, he did not dare to use it. After 15 minutes of the earthly calamity, there were still Spring Dawn Jade Orioles forming. Many northern plains was not just budding with greenery. There was a huge forest. The trees inside the forest were huge. They were dozens of meters tall. Each of the tree trunks resembled pillars. At this time, Fang Yuan tried other methods like poison spit. In the previous earthly calamity, this killer move was very effective, but now it was useless against the Spring Dawn Jade Orioles. Growl, growl, growl. In the huge forest, trees raised their heads and cried out loud. Next, they uprooted from the ground, becoming huge treemen. Fang Yuan noticed the changes on the ground and snickered. So this is the portion controlled by Heaven's will. Heh, I was vigilant and got rid of half the forest in advance. Now it seems that my preparation was not in vain. Countless treemen pulled out their roots from deep underground, charging towards Donghun Mountain. They moved slowly, but each of them were huge. Fang Yuan changed his mind and chose to defend. He landed on the peak of Donghun Mountain, looking at the treemen moving towards him. It was a scene of greenery. It was like the entire forest was pushing towards him. He felt suffocated. Fang Yuan stretched out his finger and tried to attack. Flying sword immortal goo charged over, turning into a bright light, piercing a great distance ahead. Many treemen were penetrated. These treemen stopped moving, but soon their injuries were healed, and they continued climbing towards Donghun Mountain. Fang Yuan used triple-layered sword wave again. The dazzling sword waves engulfed the treemen with sharp sounds. There was nothing left of them. The effect was great, but soon treemen behind filled up the gaps. Fang Yuan frowned. These treemen are not desolate beasts, but they are close to that level. Not only are they very durable, they can absorb life force and recover rapidly. The life force naturally came from the spring dawn Jade Orioles. Ever since the first earthly calamity, even though heaven's will could not control the entire earthly calamity, it could influence reckless savages' true meaning and create a combination. Last time it was the snow moons and windflowers. Now it was the treemen and spring dawn Jade Orioles. They combined perfectly, gaining huge effect. Fang Yuan suddenly opened his mouth, spitting out a mouthful of poisonous air. The poisonous air spread around the treemen. Dozens of them started to move slowly. Their green leaves turned purple. In a few breaths' time, their movement became slower and slower until they collapsed on the ground. The entire tree's branches and leaves started rotting, turning decayed. Poison spit's effect was quite good, but Fang Yuan could not continuously use this killer move. There was a huge drawback. He needed to get rid of the poison in his body first. Otherwise, he would die. The treemen started to climb Donghun Mountain. Soon these treemen experienced the power of Donghun Mountain. Their souls shook, their bodies trembled. Many leaves fell. However, there were too many treemen. They advanced forward, pushing each other up the mountain. Donghun Mountain was indeed a secluded domain of heaven and earth. Just at the base of the mountain, 100 treemen died. Fang Yuan did not use any immortal essence. Fang Yuan looked at the scene. His frown was deepening. Even though these treemen were troublesome, they had little threat. Because they moved slowly, Fang Yuan could attack from a distance and kill these treemen slowly. Fang Yuan felt something amiss. This earthly calamity is too easy. Don't tell me, because heaven's will felt that it cannot kill me this time. Its focus went to depleting my foundation instead.